So Danny, one of the things we're always talking about is content marketing, and I'm wondering how you can use content effectively on LinkedIn.
When you connect to a new prospect on LinkedIn, that's the first step, not the last. And often businesses give themselves a pat on the back. They say, I've done it, I've connected to them, he's going to become a customer of mine, and obviously that's not going to happen. The content really is what changes them from being a prospect to a buyer. There's 3 steps of building a relationship that a prospect needs to like you, they need to know you, they need to trust you. And that happens with content because when they're connecting to you initially, they're thinking, well, you look interesting, I'm intrigued, I'd like to know more about you. So what you then have to do is you need to be using LinkedIn to regularly share the right sort of content. People often think content is just putting out a status update. They may or may not see that. They have to be on LinkedIn at the time you post the update. So it's actually thinking about what is the content that's going to get them to a stage where they are interested in working with you. And there's a well-known statistic that's used in sales where for a prospect to buy from you, there are a minimum of 5 touch points with most prospects. It can be far more than that. But that's what's needed, and very often people on LinkedIn give up. They put out they send a couple of bits of information. Why hasn't the person responded to me yet? So with those touch points, you need to think about what sort of content is going to help people to buy from you. And there's a variety of different things you can be doing, none of which take up a huge amount of time. So it can be things like simple video guides, a little bit like what we're doing now, speaking to each other. You can basically put together a simple interview where you are interviewing maybe people in your industry. That works very well. You can be putting out PowerPoint presentations with a voiceover where you're explaining an idea. That's very easy to do in something like Camtasia or ScreenFlow if you're a Mac user. You can be putting out things like cheat sheets. So for example, if I'm an accountant, I could put out a cheat sheet which would say, here are 10 steps to understanding the budget. Those are great because these are things that can be digested in a few minutes. They're really helpful. At the same time, they establish your credibility as knowing your business, knowing your subject. And also, a lot of content can be what I call repurposed. There's a lot of content that's evergreen. So, for example, if you've written some great blog articles, you could actually take some of those articles and put them together into a simple ebook. So, if you're an accountant where you publish a weekly blog on accounting tips, you could then turn that into a great book, 10 accounting tips to help your business. And you could be sharing that with your contacts. And you'll be surprised at the number of people who will, after receiving regular content from you, respond to that and say, look, I love what you sent me, let's have a chat. But it's really, you've got to have perseverance. And as we see again and again, very often sales teams or commercial directors who are using LinkedIn to push their business, they just give up too quickly because they've actually not been doing it for long enough, and they've not got to that step where people are ready to buy.
So how do you make sure you're putting out this good content? How do you make sure that it's being seen on LinkedIn? What are the techniques you can use to make sure that the right people are seeing this content? It's not just kind of being fired into the ether.
You do actually need to be measuring what's happening with content. And one of the things you need to be doing is setting up your analytics correctly. So if you're sending people, say you're sharing a guide which you want prospects on LinkedIn to look at, you need to be linking it to a page on your website where your Google Analytics will tell you, look, we can see clearly that this content is being looked at regularly.
You should, of course, coming from LinkedIn.
Yeah. Because LinkedIn, because your Google Analytics will tell you the source of where traffic's coming from. The other thing that's crucial is you need to have a CRM system when you're using LinkedIn. You need to have some kind of customer database so you can actually measure how people are responding. If you think about, say, Facebook and Twitter, very often you'll be pushing out updates that will take people to a place on the website where people might buy, they might sign up for something. So you can see in your website stats, oh look, we've got 400 visitors from Facebook, what we're doing on Facebook is working. LinkedIn is a little bit more complicated because very often it's an offline relationship as well, isn't it? When the person actually decides to buy from you, you have a face-to-face meeting, you have a phone call, and you're drawing up a contract. How do you measure that using traditional analytics? So you also need some sort of customer database, a CRM system, so you can effectively measure that.